What's poppin'? As always, family, I extend my utmost fraternal love and respect to all of you on this fine day, and I hope this video finds you residing within the highest of spirits and doing well. So we're going to go ahead and get into this video as promised. But before I do, I want to say thank you to all the new subs, man. It's greatly appreciated. We have skyrocketed in just a few days, and I greatly, greatly appreciate it. If you haven't hit that like button, please do. If you have not subscribed up, please hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell with the all notification so you get notified whenever I drop a video. So let's go ahead and get into this. So LA County is pretty rough. Anybody that has been around for a while knows that LA County is one of the most notorious and dangerous county jails in the nation. It's just facts. It's a very dangerous, dangerous environment, especially Men's Central Jail, Old County Jail. So when you first get there, you're going to go through processing, right? So what happens first is, of course, you're going to go to whatever substation you were arrested, in the city you were arrested at. So if you're arrested, in Van Nuys, you're going to go to Van Nuys Division, right? And then you're going to get transferred after your arraignment. You're going to get transferred to the county jail. Sometimes you might get transferred before your arraignment, but usually you're going to hit your arraignment before you go to the county. So you're going to hit your arraignment, you're going to go to the county, and when you go through processing, it's crazy because you start out through Twin Towers. So the Twin Towers is right across the street from the Old County Jail, and it's two huge towers that are actually sinking, from what I understand. They're sinking because they built it on like a landfill or something. So it's like starting to sink. One of the buildings is actually sinking into I don't know how, but anyways. So you go through there first, and you go through this long hallway that literally goes under the street and goes across to the old Central Jail. So you go through this long hallway, man. Anybody that's been through it knows exactly what I'm talking about. And you get over there to processing. Usually processing takes a day or so. I don't know if it's changed since this was 1998. So I don't know if it's changed since then, but processing took forever. You would end up sitting in a cell with about 40 other dudes, and there's just cell after cell with the same amount of cats, man. Dudes sleeping on the floor, drunk, stinking like ass and Cheetos, man. It was just a very dirty and foul environment. And the processing before you could get a bedroll and get to a cell usually took almost a day and a half to 2 days. It was ridiculous. Okay. Ridiculous. So you finally get to a cell, man. And, usually you're going to end up getting busy. It just depends on who's in that cell. And needless to say, my first time, which I'll do a video on the first time I hit the county jail, pretty eventful. I did county lid, which is a year in the county jail, ends up being about 6 months. But this is the second time I was in the county, right? This is the second time. And so I go to court one day, and I'm getting down, man. I'm getting down all the time, man. I'm constantly having to get down, and there's just shit happening all the time, man. And when you're white, it's very, very difficult, man. You got to stand on yours in there. If you don't, you're in trouble. So I'm going to court, and I go to court with my homeboy Taz. Anybody that knows my homeboy Taz from the San Fernando Valley, he's a good dude, and he's out and he's doing well. So salute to Taz, man. But Taz is up there in the gang module, and he's getting sentenced to 25 to life that day. We go to San Fernando court together. And as we go to court, man, we're talking and shit, and, shooting the shit. And, I'm telling him what I'm going through, man. And, he's like, hey, don't trip, man. Gang coordinator's going to pull you up, man. Give me your name and your booking number. So I give him my name and my booking number. And sure enough, a few days later, the gang coordinator comes and pulls me out and puts me up in the gang module. So here I come, man, up to the gang module. Let me tell about the gang module, man. 3400 Charlie row, okay? So you got Charlie row, which is the white row, okay? Below you have Able row. Able row is Southsiders. Now these aren't just, so most Southsiders in there are gang members, right? But these are like the functioning gang members. These are the ones that are active and really like with the business. So the 25 and younger Southsiders, Sureños, are below. And then on the other side, you have the 25 and above Sureños. You have the Matavilla tier. You have, I believe they had an Asian tier in one part for some of the Asians that didn't go to the Asian floor. And then you had the Blood and Crip mods, okay? And let me just tell you, man, these were where the most dangerous of the dangerous were, except for High Power, which was right across the way. And what High Power was a section of cells where they kept all the big homies and the fellas and people that had high controlling cases, stuff like that. High Power. So right across the way was high power. So it wasn't hard to get word over to us or over to them, you know. So it was popping, man. It was popping up there. Believe that. It was popping in the game module because if it wasn't popping downstairs, it was popping upstairs or it was popping over on the other side. So, you know, it was always popping. So that's four-man cells. So you got four beds in each cell, but you try to only keep two in each cell because there wasn't that many of us up there on the row. And sometimes you would have more than two. So, like if you had some comrades, some homeboys, whatever up there, and they wanted to live together, you know, three or four of them instead of just two people in the cell, they could do that. But now it got tricky because if you were getting moved into a cell and there was already two people in there and you didn't, one, either didn't know you were getting moved in there with them or you're not really cool with them and you don't know them like that, and they ask you to move in, 9 times out of 10, you're probably about to get blasted. So be careful. Just saying. It's closed down anyway, so it don't matter. But just saying that's what was up. Like, you know what I mean? If you weren't cool with the individuals and you weren't like part of that move and you didn't know about it, or like I said, you were invited over and you didn't even really know these people, then more than likely you were getting ready to get blasted. It's just facts. So you have usually two guys on the bottom bunk, one on each bunk. And then we would use the top bunk for our store, our canteen, our personal items, because they had a lot of fucking rats and roaches in there. And you had what was called Freeway Freddy, the notorious Freeway Freddy, man. It was a rat that was about the size of a raccoon. I never really saw Freeway Freddy, but let me tell you, I saw some huge, huge rodents in there, massive. And what would happen is they would climb up the side of your bedpost and get up into your canteen. It was quite intense, man. It was bullshit. You would be laying there sleeping, all of a sudden you hear a bunch of rustling, man. You'd look over, your cellie's sleeping, you'd kick one of the posts, man. The rats would come running down the post, right? So you had to contend with the rats up in there. They were deep, man. They were deep and they would dig off into your food, man. But not only that, the place should have been condemned, man. It should have been condemned, like straight up. Like it was foul. You had water sometimes running from the floor above you coming down, toilet water, shower water. You had, I mean, it was just disgusting, man. It was a disgusting place. When the lights would go out, the roaches would come out. It was foul, man. If you want to talk about foul, that is foul. When I went to the hole over there, man, let me tell you, at 9 o'clock, they turn the lights off, the whole single cell. Man, as soon as they turn the lights off, the roaches are coming out. You got to literally tuck your wool blanket around you, completely all around you, just to hope none of them roaches get in on you. It is foul, disgusting, fucking disgusting. Man, if you're watching this and you're a youngster, don't go to fucking prison. I'm telling you right now, it's not the place to be. So, man, this is the first time I got introduced to what's called a roll call. Okay. So when you're in the gang module or you're in a hole or you're in a shoe, more than likely the whites, the Southsiders, even the Northerners are going to have what's called a roll call. And what that consists of is in the morning, you'll have usually it might be the guy that has the keys, it might be somebody else, it just depends. But that individual is going to say good morning to everybody. Sometimes, some roll calls, they will call off each cell and each person in each cell and then say good morning comrades, and then you know you would respond with good morning, or you know they might just call, you know, the whole tier at a time. It just depended on who was doing roll call and how they did it, but usually they would call each cell, each person, each cell, and then say good morning and then move on to the next cell, and at the very end they would say something like Simon in the very end. You know, there's just it ain't even gonna say what was said at the end on one of the other fellas that was doing a roll call because it was very derogatory to the people next to us. I'm just saying. So it was a crazy environment, man. It was a crazy environment. And being up there, you realize fast how serious of a place you were about to go to. And one good thing about me going to the gang module before I hit the penitentiary was I was able to get schooled up a little bit by these fellas, you know, and able to get some game before I went up there, you know. So that's one thing I was grateful for, you know. Did I need to be up there at that time? Probably not. Probably not. You know what I mean? Um, you know, remind you, I was still 18 years old, about to turn 19. I was young. I don't think I belonged up there at that point, but you know, hey, you live and you learn, and the fellas, you know, Homeboy wanted to bring me up, and it's all good, man. It was a good time while I was up there, if you want, and as good as it can get. And you know, another thing is that was the first time I ever tried heroin. First time I ever tried heroin was in the gang module, 3400 Charlie Roll. Now I'm not going to divulge how things get in. It's not my business, not my place. But that was the first time I ever tried heroin, man. And let me tell you something, man. It was like a warm, fuzzy blanket wrapped around me, made me feel like everything was going to be all right. And it was definitely a bad thing for me to do. A bad thing, definitely a bad thing for me to do. Because heroin fell in love with me, and I fell in love with it. And when you're in there, a lot of people will tell you, man, you just want to fucking escape, man. You don't want to be in there. Any way you can get a little head change and get out of there if you can, you might just do that, man. Just to escape for a little bit. But in part two, I'm going to talk about a murder that happened up there. And it was vicious, man. It was calculated, it was vicious. And but it was an SO that it happened to. And I don't know, man. I don't think that people that hurt children and hurt women are good people at all. And I personally don't care, about them or anything that happens with them. I think they're bad people. I think anybody that harms an innocent child or a woman is a piece of trash in my eyes, man. You don't go around graping women, and you don't go around beating up women, and you don't go around hurting children, period. So we will talk about the unaliving of the gentleman, if you want to call him that. In the next part two, we will definitely discuss that. But let me just say, man, LA County is insane, man. Like in Supermax, for instance, getting off from the game module for 1 second. When I was in Supermax, you would hear over the intercom, report to, dorm 611 in full riot gear. And then 2 minutes later, you would hear report to dorm 712 in full riot gear. And, each dorm would just start jumping off. Boom. Next after the next after the next, man, because they wouldn't know, they didn't have enough cops. They couldn't respond to every fucking dorm. So after 2 or 3 of these, they're just going off until the cops can finally fucking get there. So I mean, it's a cold environment. Like in the gang module, the cops don't walk the tier very often. Very seldom do they walk the tier. Obviously, they walk it in the morning, they walk it late at night, and they walk it for afternoon count, the main count, when they come and check your wristbands and everything. Now, sometimes the cops would come from the back and start walking the tier from the back because there was a back door, and sometimes they would come from the front of the tier, right? So what we had is, instead of like, being man walking and being obvious, if they came from the back, the first cell in the back would be like, back to front, Chuck. So, you know what I mean? In other words, man walking, but they would say, back to front, Chuck, because he's starting from the back to the front. Vice versa. If it was from the front, it'd be front to back, Chuck. And then everybody would repeat it down the tier. So, everybody would know that there was a cop walking. So with that being said, it was very easy to get away with stuff up there. You knew the cop was not walking. You knew the cop was not walking. And they didn't care, man. They would sit up there with their music blasting at the front and just chill. They didn't care about what was going on in our tier, and it was common for them to come on the tier and find somebody deceased. Not necessarily in the white row, although it did happen on the white row. And I will get into that in part two. But it wasn't uncommon for them to walk the Southsiders downstairs, the other side, any part of the gang module, and find somebody deceased at the end of the day. I mean, that's just facts, man. They would come in from main count looking for an individual, and he'd be under a bed fucking dead for hours. It's just the way it happened. You'd be laying there at night, and you would hear somebody just getting stabbed up in the middle of the night on the tier below us, or you could hear them from the tier next to us, just getting stabbed up, wet up. It was constantly happening downstairs. Constantly, man. They were constantly getting these youngsters. Like I said, it was the Southsiders 25 and under. and they would constantly be coming in there, and they would be getting hit because they would, be in trouble for whatever reason, whatever violation, whatever rule they broke, whatever the case may be, bad paperwork, they'd be getting moved on. And we would sit up there and hear it, you know. It's all bar living. It's all cell and bar living. So it's bars. There's not cell doors. It's all bars. It's old school, right? If you look at the thumbnail that I posted, you can see it's all bars, man. And actually, that one picture with everybody's hands hanging out to sell bars, that's what you would see. You would see that during the day. That's what it would look like. All of us would be on the tier talking to each other, shooting the shit, drinking our coffee. A lot of times you would make a mirror. You would take a potato chip bag on the inside. It's real shiny. You would take one of the ice cream cups, the plastic ice cream cups. You would take that and you would, as tight as you could, get it onto that ice cream cup. And you would take the elastic out of your boxers and you would tie it around that cup and get that thing as tight as you could. And you would polish it up. And it literally, you could see yourself in it. It was a mirror. And you'd use that to look down the tier, to see if a cop was coming. You could, use it to look down when you're talking to your homeboy. You could see him. He would use his mirrors. So you guys are like actually having a conversation with each other, whatever the case may be. Somebody might want to show you something outside the bars, a picture or whatever. You use your mirror to look at it, you know. So, just by me explaining how this is set up, you obviously can tell that it's a dangerous environment. It's very dangerous, and anything can happen. Anything can happen. And the amount of steel, I'm talking steel, that is floating around LA County is insane. As I said, it's a very old county jail, and it is falling apart. So the ability to get metal and things to make knives out of, weapon stock, is so easy. So easy. And I'm not talking small pieces. I'm not talking about trotter pieces. I'm talking about real steel and metal made to hurt somebody, made to take their win. So yeah, the game module was wild, man. And hey, listen, I implore all youngsters, anybody that may see this, please, man, steer away from that lifestyle, because that's no way you want to live, man. You don't want to wake up every day wondering, hey, man, fuck, is politics gonna turn on me today? Or man, am I gonna get a celly that I'm gonna have to blast and take his wind? Or you don't want to live in that environment. You don't want to just don't go. Just stay away from it, man. It's not worth it. You know, I know what it's like to want to have camaraderie, to want to find love, man, to want to find that brotherhood. But I'm telling you, man, that's not the place to do it, man. That's not the place to do it. And so many of us have already done it for you. Please do not go down that path. Please do not go down that path. It's not worth it. And it's just a foul, disgusting, um, unnatural environment for any man to be. Surrounded by a bunch of other men locked in an institution? Nah, man. Nah. You know, having to worry about rats going up into your food and eating your food and roaches coming out when the lights go out. And, I mean, who wants to live like that? If you don't have to, who wants to live like that? Why would you want to be controlled and told when you can leave, when you can shower, when you can use the restroom, so forth, man? Like, those are freedoms that everybody should want to respectfully hold on to, treasure, and never let go. And by going around and doing foolish things and breaking the law like I did, you end up forfeiting those rights, and it's not cool. And then let's not forget the things that happen in there at the hands of guards at sometimes, and the injustices that happen. Me and Stuck in the System DVS were on a live panel this morning talking about the Brooks case. I was watching that today. Very sad, sad situation. Them officers beat that man, beat him and beat him, cuffed, beat him. It's disgusting. And you got to worry about that type of shit happening. I don't know if any of you guys have seen, but you got the LA County, sheriffs that are actually have their own fucking little gangs, their own little squads up in there, getting tattoos, matching tattoos and shit. Come on now. Like, Yeah, that ain't an environment you need to be in, man. And if there's any way you can turn your life around and prevent from going into that place or an environment like that, please do so. Please do so. Take it from somebody that spent 13 years incarcerated. It ain't worth it. Well, listen, I just wanted to give you a brief kind of intro into LA County Jail, the gang module, part one. We will be doing part two here in the next day or so. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please, if you will, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and there will be two videos on the screen. When I close out here, feel free to click on either one of those and continue enjoying the content. With that being said, I hope you have a blessed day. Deuces.